When we speak of ISB and its impact on students, the one word that stands out is transformation. We welcome bright young minds to the school, see them graduate with flying colors, and go on to accomplish some incredible things. She founded Cuddles Foundation in 2013 to improve survival rates for children battling cancer by addressing the critical role of nutrition in treatment. Rather than viewing the foundation's role as just a support service, she has led and positioned it as an essential part of pediatric oncology care, helping leading hospitals across India integrate nutrition into the treatment plans of affected children. Bound to the mission that no child fights cancer on an empty stomach, the foundation has impacted thousands of young patients, working with doctors and nutritionists to provide essential meals, supplements, and counseling to parents. She has leveraged her background in business strategy and brand management to scale the foundation's reach, shaping national conversations around the role of nutrition in cancer care. Her efforts have earned widespread recognition, including the prestigious National Award for Child Welfare from the President of India. Join me for a conversation that takes a deep look into the journey of Purnota Dutta Bahl from the PGP Class of 2005, the founder and CEO of Cuddles Foundation. Purnota, so good to have you here with us. As you know, this series, we feature our exemplary alums, such as yourselves, who are doing some incredible work in a wide variety of areas. Here I am with you in your office at the Cuddles Foundation in Mumbai. Before I start off, I want to sort of ask you about a very basic question that everybody related to ISB, connected with the school, has on top of their mind, which is, what led you to ISB?
What led me to ISB was actually it's quite a few years ago now.
That's right.
But when I look back and I reflect on why ISB, that was because at that point in time I was writing my GMAT Guru, and I did want to go and get an education in a place which not only gave me opportunities, but it
Yeah.
also gave me an exposure. And at that point in time, ISB was very, very new. I think I was the third or the fourth
Yeah,
batch
third
of
batch. Yeah.
ISB. But I ended up meeting a few alums who were very inspiring for me. In particular, I met Radhika Khurana, and I also got a scholarship.
Wow.
I'm incredibly grateful to ISB for that. Hence, ISB happened because I realized at that point in time there weren't as many options. And this was a school here which was giving the kind of opportunities of interaction with professors, the kind of infrastructure that was never seen before in India, right? The alums I met, I believe as a percentage, there are far more entrepreneurs from ISB because we are a group of people who take risks.
Yeah, it's a little more natural, I
It
guess,
comes
in terms
naturally.
of risk-taking ability.
So I think ISB was just one of the most wonderful decisions of my life.
And so, in terms of prior to ISB, tell us a little bit about what was your undergraduate, where were you working before you came to ISB?
So I am actually born and brought up in Lucknow.
Oh, wow.
So my childhood was in Lucknow. I did my schooling from Lucknow.
Yeah.
I came to Bombay to Sydenham College for my undergraduate. And while I was doing my undergraduate degree, I started interning with the Indian Express at that point in time, led by Shekhar Gupta.
Yeah.
I eventually ended up joining their events team.
Okay.
And I ended up doing a lot of corporate events with them. I worked with them for about 2.5 to 3 years before ISB happened.
Okay. And post ISB, you moved back to media, right?
That's right. So
Yeah.
post ISB, I moved to Hindustan Times.
Yeah.
I was a brand manager there. I launched the Punjab edition, which was incredibly exciting. I got to learn Punjabi, which held me in very good stead because I married a Punjabi man.
Also an ISBN.
Also an ISBN, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, post that, I moved to shadi.com under Anupam Mittal, who everyone knows now.
Yeah. One of the
And
sharks.
Shark Tank, one of the sharks. heading marketing for them, which was incredible. Like the kind of just the team and how it was run.
Yeah.
Um, Culturally, I had never seen anything like that. Very, very, at that point in time, fun, Silicon Valley, innovative, a place which rewarded you to think out of the box. In fact, a whole lot of the way Cuddles, the organizationally how it's structured,
Yeah.
is based on what I had learned at Shadi.com.
Oh, lovely. How did this, this yearning to solve a problem that you're currently solving for, how did this come about?
So actually, I keep telling everyone that the cause found me, and I am incredibly grateful to the universe for that. Right after ISB, honestly, if I were to tell you, I had similar aspirations as everybody else. I was going very well. It In my earlier organization, it was a place, like I said, very nurturing. I was growing tremendously, but I ended up getting pregnant with my firstborn. I don't know if you know, I have three children,
Okay.
and I was pregnant with Ahana, who's the oldest one, and it was a very difficult pregnancy, Guru. So after I had Ahana, I was on a sabbatical. And Gunjan, my husband, and I, when we just started working, decided to pledge a part of our income to Tata Memorial Hospital for no other reason than it was just a very clean setup to donate in.
Sure.
And as donors, what we really cared about was where the money is going. If you
Correct.
just tell
Is the
me
money
where
being
it's
spent
going,
well? Yeah.
we were agnostic to where you were using it.
Sure.
And I mean, actually, my insight of what donors want started from there. And when I had Ahana, I was on a sabbatical. I got a call from one of the doctors there saying, "You're at home. I know you're at home. Congratulations for the new baby. Come and see the kids you're supporting." We were supporting treatment for the kids. And at that point of time, when I walked in, and I remember it was 2011, Ahana was just born.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, most of us go to government hospitals and have been to a government hospital at some point in our
Of
lives.
course.
But most of us have never been to a government hospital that treats children with cancer or cancer patients only. And I was just not prepared to see what I saw when I walked in. It must have been a small room like the size of this room with children, parents, like about 150 kids in this kind of space. I saw mothers with children in their laps, with IV bottles in their hand, like things I had never seen before, and so many bald kids, sick kids. I remember this one kid, I don't know for what reason, the whole leg was burnt. As a new mother, it was very hard to see. So I was ready to turn around and go. When the head of social services actually came to me and said, "Purnota, you have come here. I will not let you go." I couldn't say no to her. I ended up going to the 11th floor, which was the pediatric ward. And I'm telling you, she took me to every room, and every story was more heartbreaking than the other. And room after room, stories like that, to a point where I was like crying, like wildly crying, snotty crying. And, Shalini realized that it was not like it was, everybody was getting really worried. And I was feeling very embarrassed about such a outburst. So I turned around to walk outside, and in the last room, and that is the moment of epiphany, Guru, like those times in your life where you think this was a
This
time
is
my
it.
life shifted, is I saw this little kid. I saw her mother's back, and the kid was in the mother's lap. And she was a chubby kid, like my Ahana was a chubby kid. She was a nan fed kid. And on one of her legs was a black dhaga. And it was on the same leg as that of Ahana's. Like it could have been Ahana
Just
there.
the, yeah.
And I thought the reason that I was on this side of the room is just luck. There is no other way to explain it. So I went to Shalini and I said, "I'm on a sabbatical. What is it that I can do?" And she said something super bizarre. She said, Purnota, because this is Tata, I have enough funding for treatment. I don't have funding for nutrition, food, which didn't make sense because we're feeding the cows and the crows. And in my head, I'm thinking, who's saying no for nutrition for kids with cancer? So I said, Shalini, every time you have a requirement, you tell me and you take the money we give, whatever little we give, towards nutrition. Then every time they had a requirement, they would call me. And it came to a point where even on a stretch budget, Gunjan and I couldn't afford it. Like we both were like, now what? And by that time, friends knew what we were doing. And so we started tapping into friends and saying, hey, would you like to donate, let's say, 5 boxes of supplement today or 5 kgs of ghee today? And friends started contributing. And that was actually the beginning of
And that
Cuddles
was still
Foundation.
informal.
Still informal. I actually went to my boss at that time and I said, I want to quit because I want to do it forever. And he said, you know what? I'm not taking your resignation. You're on a sabbatical, extend your sabbatical. You will come back to me in a year. And that was that day. And this is
My
today.
my God.
Yes. So
And
for
yes,
2 years, I did it informally.
yeah.
And then at 2013, when I decided that this is what I wanted to do, I was very, very sure, is when we ended up registering Cuddles Foundation on 22nd of April 2013.
Wow. I know your impact can't just be measured by numbers, but we always believe that everything can be measured. So tell me a little bit in terms of numbers.
Actually, I must tell you, because I'm talking to you and this is ISB, that this is the only not for profit in the world who does what it does.
Is that right?
Nobody has seen the kind of numbers that we do. And that's simply because we're in India and we solve problems at scale, right?
That's true.
So, like I said, that because I had the benefit of working for a startup, I knew how to set up a startup. So I knew things about success metrics, milestones, etc. So what happened at the very beginning was setting up of a process and saying, we want to establish if the model works or not, or a MVP.
Yeah.
And like they say, and that MVP got established at Tata Memorial. So for the first 2 years, we worked solely with Tata Memorial Hospital. We perfected our model. We
Yeah.
were very sure that we wanted to build a model that was a plug and play model that I could take anywhere
It's like a
in any
templatized version.
country, and the same model could be deployed with slight tweaks depending on
Sure.
the hospital. So from that one hospital, very quickly we came to about, I would say, 10 hospitals by 2007. And today we are at about 42 centers in the country,
Okay.
reaching out to 50% of children in cancer care in the
In those
country.
for
In the
in the
country.
country.
In the country,
And
yes, give or take.
what's that number like when you say 50%
Yeah,
of?
so every year about 75,000 kids are estimated to get cancer in the country.
Okay.
And out of this 75,000, only 25,000 reach the hospitals. We lose 50,000. We don't know what happens to them even before they get
So
to the
they're not even
hospital.
in any of these care centers. They're
So
not
at
coming.
any given point in time, back of the envelope calculation says we have between 30,000 to 45,000 kids in active treatment in the country today. So we are talking about 42 centers, and last year alone, we did about 19,000 children across the country, across these 42 centers. And as we grow, our aspiration is that in the next 5 years, we should be at about 80% across the country.
So from 52,
And
you want to scale it up to
I
80%.
want to scale it up to about 70 centers, 75 centers across the country. That's what we want to do in the next 5 years.
This is incredible. This, obviously you've built a community to enable this, right? I mean,
Yes.
you've been leading this from the front, but you
Yes.
obviously have built a community.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about how you went about early friends, like you mentioned.
Yes.
You and Gunjan reached out to your network.
Yes.
But beyond that, when you formalized this was no longer just about friends, right?
No.
Yeah. Would love to know more about that.
So, very initially, we started working with friends and people we knew. At this point, I would like to say that it is incredible when a person comes from institutions like, let's say, an ISB. The network effect it gives is amazing because whoever I wanted to reach out to was as close as first or second degree of connection. So what we did was we looked at all the organizations, CSR organizations, which had health in their mandate.
Yeah.
And what we did is went about talking to the senior leadership of all those organizations. And this happened through the network effect, like I said, through ISB, through our friends. And that's how we ended up building a very strong community of even donors. So as a philosophy, Guru, we work with a small set of donors. And
Okay.
what happens is we like to work with donors over a period of time because we don't look at our donors as donors, but we look at them as partners who enable us to solve a problem. And
Very nice.
solving of a problem doesn't happen overnight or even in a year or 2 years.
Correct.
You need partners who walk the journey with you. And that has been our philosophy. Even if you look at our individual donors, it's about 150 to 200 donors who have been with us from the beginning, although the donor base is large, because as people get to know about the cause, people want to contribute.
Sure.
But like we say, sustained engagement is with a small set of
This is
people
your
over a
core set
long
of
period.
donors with whom you can also not just their financial support, but also their intellectual
Absolutely.
and other kind of,
Absolutely. Because
assets that they bring to
I
the table.
want to tell you in all humility, if your success metrics, if your books, etc., are in order,
Yeah.
money is very easy to come by. What is hard to come by is the time of people.
Yeah.
And that happens, people are willing to give you time if you engage with them over a sustained period. And if they see their time, because I think there is an awareness these days that money will come, but time is
Yeah,
irreplaceable,
yeah, yeah.
right? So that's why this whole emphasis on a community, like you said, that we've placed on from day one.
And you're saying the ISB alumni network helped you in the process as well?
Tremendously. And what that also helps is in just creating of awareness, because for us, the biggest issue was nobody really knew about the problem of malnourishment in children with cancer. And the other thing that I love to talk about, which is the reason that I wake up and get into work every day, Guru, is that this is a solvable problem. In this world where the climate is going to the dogs, and in India, every single problem is so large and every single problem is so urgent. Here is a small problem that you and I can
Can fix it.
solve,
Yeah.
and we can fix it in the next 10 years and move on to the next problem.
I mean, in terms of your programs, I want to understand a little bit about the model that you
Yeah.
run. So you partner with hospitals.
Yeah.
These are either government hospitals or charitable hospitals,
Yeah.
and this thing. And you fund their existing programs, or do you go set up a kitchen? How do you sort of, what is the model?
Yeah. Thanks for asking it, because when anybody hears nutrition, they think it's a hot meal.
Yeah.
But what we do, I want to clarify, is we do medical nutrition.
Okay.
And the background to that is that if a child is malnourished, you cannot plug a malnourished child to chemotherapy. 75% of children get liquid cancers, which are blood cancers, the treatment for which is chemotherapy. In the absence of nourishment, chemotherapy doesn't work. So if you ask of the program, just four simple things. One is seconding a nutritionist to the hospitals who
Yeah.
assesses the grade of malnourishment. Second is our supplementation program, which is giving all these supplements, which are over the counter products specifically for kids who are battling cancer. The third is we do a ration program, because we saw many children or many families abandoning treatment because they couldn't afford to feed the other child. So we said, if a parent has brought the child into treatment and beaten incredible odds, chances are they're abandoning because they're not able to take care of themselves. So we do a ration program, which is one of our most powerful program, Guru, because not only does it take care of the nutritional needs of the child in treatment, but keeps the child in treatment.
Yeah.
And then a last extremely important one is actually parent counseling. We don't want them dependent on us. Tomorrow, when they get out of treatment, there is no cuddles. They should be able to take care of their kids in the limited means that they have. So we do a whole lot of training with parents around making better food choices, hygiene. We teach them, again, a banana or a roti is much better than a Parle-G or a Maggie. These are available everywhere, right? Like nutritionally, these are much better options for a kid who's not well. Um, so these are the four pillars of our
So you're
program.
you're essentially doing a lot of behavioral change, but also providing real, tangible sort of,
Yeah.
you know, uh, you know, help in form of supplements and other things,
Yes.
and also post facto, once the child is out, how do you sort of sustain on a long
Absolutely.
term thing?
Absolutely.
So what's next for you? You're in Cuddles. This is this is your play.
Yeah.
But what's next, if I may ask?
I want to be able to now, I look at myself as somebody who solves problems and builds organizations. So I am engaging with other not for profits and
Yeah.
for profits and looking to build them ground up. And that's, I think, going to be my journey. Needless to say, Cuddles will always remain my passion and my purpose, and something I do primarily. Having said that, Cuddles has also been built very sustainably. I have some of the best talent, I'm proudly saying, in the country who are
Wow.
running this organization.
That's so nice to hear.
Standing on the whose hard work I'm able to today say that I have the bandwidth to be able to do other things. So that's where my personal journey is taking me.
So I want to ask you about, all the work that you've done at Cuddles and, in your journey of entrepreneurship, social entrepreneurship. I also saw, and we spoke about it briefly when we came in, this beautiful, wonderful awards. I mean, my eyes instantly went to the scroll from the Rashtrapati Bhavan, the Government of India's award. And that must have been very gratifying to receive a recognition and to receive this from the president himself.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was honestly, Guru, it was so early on in the journey that it was very overwhelming. But it was amazing because it sort of was like a proof that we were on the right path.
Yeah.
Very initially, when you get into a hospital, you see so much and you see so much misery that the temptation to do more and not stick to your niche is very high. But we were very, very sure that if we want to see success metrics,
Yeah.
we had to stay at a niche. But I was constantly questioning myself and saying, should I have done, let's say, housing or transportation? But when this came in, it was such a gratifying moment because not only was it was recognition that we are solving a problem that is a super niche problem that has never been solved before.
You were featured on the KBC, the Kaun Banega
Yeah.
Crorepati, with Amitabh Bachchan as the host.
Yeah.
Uh, and you had as your co-panelist or your co-sort of participant, Imran
Imran.
Hashmi,
Yeah.
who has somewhat similar story, at least in terms of the kind of constituency that you cater to,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
How was that experience? And, tell us a little bit about that.
That experience was also amazing and it actually sank after, I mean, the experience and the how large it was sank in after KBC had happened. Of course, meeting Mr. Bachchan is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Very few people know that he wrote multiple checks to us after KBC. But as I was telling you, nothing prepared for what came after that.
Yeah.
The night of KBC, even though we had taken precautions, we had made sure that we bolster our website. Our website crashed within the, as KBC was happening, it crashed. The kind of donations that came in, we had never seen that those kinds of numbers before.
But it's a good problem.
It is a very, very beautiful problem to solve. And not only that, I think being in a platform like that gives a niche cause like that a whole lot of credibility.
Sure. It's like a
And
nice
that is the,
amplifier.
it's like an amplifier.
It brings me back to a point that you made earlier, which is that, there are lessons that you've learned along the way. I'm curious to also ask and learn, uh, are there any specific lessons that you sort of, while you were a student at ISB, that, we all have our favorites, we all have our, sort of one course or one area of study that leaves an impact more than the others? Are there any things that you picked up from your school time at ISB to what you're doing now at Cuddles?
Yeah, I want to tell you this. When I was at ISB, everybody used to laugh at me saying I took the FAFI courses. I used to love them. There was a course which was run only, I think, in my year, which is called Philosophy in Business.
Okay.
And of course, I took strategy, I took negotiation. I cannot tell you, I took game theory. I cannot tell you the kind of exposure it gives to a young mind very early on these thinking modalities.
Yeah.
And that exposure of thinking modalities actually has brought me here because remember, you can hire a finance guy, you can hire a techie. But the thought and the thinking modalities like this are actually hard to come by.
It's intrinsic to the person who's.
And the same FAFI courses have held me in such good, um, you know, stead. And this is what I want to say for anybody who's at ISB. I
Yeah.
think the important thing to do is to have such a cool balance of what you think will make money and what you think will enjoy. Because eventually, what you will enjoy, I know it's a cliche, but lands you to make money.
Hmm. Hmm. So if a student at ISB right now is watching this and says, "Hey, this is a great place. I want to volunteer, or I want to even work here at Cuddles," you will be open to welcoming them.
Absolutely. So I mean, I'm often asked at the end of interviews, what is the message for
Yeah.
young people, so to say? And it's the same message for years, which is to say that everybody should, especially if you're starting your career, look at a not for profit. That's an amazing option for three practical reasons. One is if you want to go to any of these large McKinsey and companies or BCGs or HLLs, this looks damn good on your CV. Two, the kind of quality of work that a not for profit will give a person with credentials and background from ISB is unparalleled. You will never be a cog in the wheel, you will be solving a real life problem. And number three is that very early on, if you know how to work in a resource constrained environment,
Yeah.
you become A player
Yeah.
because you will be able to, irrespective of resources, you get to know the hustle.
Yeah.
And that, and in the nicest way. And of course, very early on, also, what it does, Guru, gives you an understanding of what purpose later in life might look like.
Yeah. This is one of the most practical pitches that I've heard of attracting people to work in the not-for-profit space. I love it.
But it is true.
It's true.
And
I
and
There's
I
nothing to disagree.
and I want to tell you the cherry on top is not for profits pay.
Yeah.
And I do want to talk about the program at
Yeah.
ISB where if you want to talk, it's amazing that ISB now is saying if you want to talk, sorry, work in a not for profit, it takes care of your EMIs.
Yeah, we have a very generous Develop India scholarship.
I am blown by that.
Yeah, because I think it stems from ISB's own desire to create impact, and in the truest sense. So it's that's something that and also with the new program, we now are looking for students to also come to places like Cuddles, for instance, for their internship as well.
Yes.
Which again will perhaps give them the runway for looking at this as an option. I have a rapid fire for you, Purnota.
Yeah.
And, this is one of those things where we also want quick answers,
Yeah.
and maybe short answers, but short is not so important as quick.
Yeah.
Right? So the ethos of Cuddles Foundation and what you do, if you were to put it in a very short way.
It's love, hope, and nourishment.
Love, hope, and nourishment.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Something that most people don't know about Purnota.
That I speak Punjabi very well.
Okay. And that's what you picked up when you were launching Hindustan Time.
That's what I picked up when I had to speak
And
to
it
the
had nothing to
sales
do with your
guy.
Punjabi
It
husband.
has nothing to do. Also, it gets me a lot of brownies from my in-laws.
An unforgettable campus memory.
Holi on campus was insane. I think I've never played Holi like that ever before or after. And of course, the birthday dunkings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Do they still happen?
No, we don't. For hygiene purposes, as
Yeah,
because
I am glad.
yeah. What are you reading right now? Because I see a lot of interesting books in your office. Any book that has had a significant influence
I
on
do
you.
want to say one book that there are two books I keep going back to. One
Yeah.
is Hard Things About Hard Things.
Okay.
I keep going back to that all the time because that is as true of an entrepreneur's journey as it can be. The other is called Parenting Without Power Struggles, which is also, yeah, it's a parenting book, but I keep going back to it again and again because it's a book that not too many people know of, but I find it incredible just in terms of insights.
And in your power struggles with your kids, do you win at all?
The point is to not have a power struggle. That's the point of the book.
Oh, lovely. I didn't think of it that way. So, uh, uh, when you look around other similar social entrepreneurs, people who have created impact at scale in whatever space that they pursue, whose work has influenced you the most, or whose work do you look up to in some sense?
So, the founder of Charity Water called
Yeah,
Scott Harrison, I was hugely influenced by him just because he also broke the stereotype. In fact, a lot of how we speak, who we are, is inspired by Charity Water. The other one I absolutely love is Dan Palota, who speaks about depuritizing not for profits, because
yeah,
not for profits is seen with certain lens.
yeah,
And what I feel passionate about saying is a not for profit is is run with the same rules as a for
yeah.
profit. Only
That's true.
thing is we are chasing a social good. And these are the two people I sort of really, really look up to.
What is ISB for you in one sentence?
Opportunity and nostalgia.
Lovely. Purnota, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. This can go on, and I only see, from the smile on your face, it's the smiles of those thousands of kids and their family members, to be very honest, and also the fact that you've actually energized an entire ecosystem, found a problem that's always been there, but perhaps no one paid attention to. Happenstance that you chanced upon this, but didn't sort of, like most people would do, you didn't say someone will do something about it, or here's what I'll do, but picked it up and sort of, we have. And as you reminded us earlier, the finish line is not too far off
Yeah.
in some sense. So what a great work you're doing. Wish you all the very best.
Thank you.
And we are incredibly proud of the work that you're doing at ISB. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.